So there's still some seats up yonder.
You're really good at managing the room.
What's that?
You're really good at managing the room.
Did you see all their heads snap up?
I did.
No, listen. I actually teach as part of my day job to teenagers, so I'm not used to people paying attention. This is. And previously I worked with male felons, so I'm just like, okay, people are listening when I'm talking. I don't know what to do with this. But I guess on that note, we'll get started as people continue to straggle in. So, hi, everybody. Hi. All right, so who's ready for some hardcore data analysis? Are you freaking kidding? Are you freaking kidding? No. Okay, hold on. Who here is actually like a mental health professional or, oh crap. So you people are gonna actually check what we're saying. All right. What's evidence? No, I'll preface that for those of you who know what this is. I'm a hardcore CBT guy. So the first time I was actually in Philadelphia was 5 years ago when I got to go to an intensive workshop at the Beck Institute. And I will tell you, Aaron Beck, 90 gajillion years old, like 2 feet tall and hilarious. So yeah, we'll get started. I'm Dr. B. I'm the clinical director of Take This. For those of you who have heard of us, word's good. This make word goods now. For those of you who have heard of us, we are the ones who are probably best known for running the AFK rooms at all of the PAX locations worldwide. We are the AFK. Oh. Yay! Incidentally, the AFK room, for those of you who have not heard of it, it is the most boring room at any convention. And it is by design. It is quiet. In fact, it's cool to go in there and watch silence smack people in the face, and they look perplexed for a moment, and then they just, it is also next door, so please do not throw anything at the wall, all right? We talked about me going over and kicking the wall over a couple times when I was introducing it. But welcome to Trusting the Party's Healer, Gamers, Geeks, and Therapy. I'm going to say a few things about Take This because I'm the moderator and I can. So our mission, basically, we are not here to advocate any one type of treatment, but we want to advocate that if you're having some mental health challenges, regardless of whether it rises to the level of a diagnosis or not, go get help for that. Shrinks are awesome. We're here to prove that, okay? And so we just basically want people to feel as comfortable going to get help for mental health challenges as they do for going to fix a broken leg. Sadly, and I promised the mother of this person I would mention this at every training just to keep the spirit of Matthew alive. We were founded out of tragedy. 5 years ago in October, a colleague of our founders lost his battle with depression and took his own life. For those of you who are not in the games industry, it's remarkably isolated. It's very project-based. Events like PAX are actually very important for the culture of the industry because we get to catch up with people who we haven't seen in 6 months or a year and find out what studio they're at right now. It's really rare that somebody's with a studio for an extended period of time. So Matthew was able to fly under the radar, and the whole goal is we wanted to make sure that it didn't happen again, that people felt comfortable saying, I'm struggling, I need help. And so that's the mission of Take This. We also do things like educate, we do consultations with studios, we do all sorts of stuff, but the AFK room seems to be what we're best known for because it's awesome. And let's see, we are located next door. The Hope booth where our merch is found is up in the Diversity Hub and Lounge, and if you are interested in supporting us, there's a couple of ways to do it. We actually just launched a Patreon. What a lot of people don't realize is that the AFK room is expensive to run. It costs about $10,000 per show because we want to do it right. Okay, we don't want to just have a quiet room because one of our founders likes to say that's like having a first aid station and leaving a bowl of Band-Aids. So we want to do it right. And so it's expensive. The Patreon, you can go support us. Even if you can give $1, that's awesome. Those add up. Wormwood Gaming is an awesome partner of ours, and they actually make our Hope Shields. If you haven't seen them, they're amazing. I give them out to all of my clients as transitional objects, or when we like to say when I fire them. My clients love being fired. They're doing so well. But they're really awesome. It's a blind box thing, and it supports us, and Wormwood's an amazing partner, and they make amazing products. Also, the Hope booth that you can get our merch, and our Psychomancer plushie and limited edition pins and all that are available. Okay, well, that's enough of the pitch. Let's talk about shrinks. All right, so Take This's mission is to destigmatize mental health. Now, the most obvious application of that is let's get people talking about what's going on with them, feel comfortable saying, I'm struggling right now. But one of the other things that I take on as my mission as the clinical director is basically to destigmatize mental health clinicians. Because so many people, especially at conventions, they've had bad experiences with mental health. Either they were coerced by parents into going to see somebody who didn't know what really games are. A video game is a video game is a video game to them. Either way, for whatever reason they were coerced, a lot of people come with this attitude that if they come see a mental health professional, it's going to be walking in and it's going to be, yeah, well, tell me about your mother. Yeah, oh, you breastfed for how long? Only the left breast. Well, that explains your aversion to right-handed people. And it's not like that. I mean, a lot of us are cool, I think. But we really want people to feel comfortable with seeing a mental health professional. So in that respect, we wanted to gather some mental health professionals who I know in various roundabout ways, and talk about the cool things we do that are relevant to the gaming community. And so let's introduce everybody. And okay, that's weird. Oh, okay. Okay, so my wife is a senior developer at Microsoft, and even she hates the Microsoft update department. Occasionally, I hear yelling and swearing coming from downstairs, and just, why can't they just update on a regular schedule? Ah! So it messed with my PowerPoint, apparently. So either way, so let's go down the line. Everybody say a little bit about yourself.
Hi, so I'm Dr. Megan Connell. I'm a psychologist at Southeast Psych out of Charlotte, North Carolina. I run a couple of therapeutic D&D groups, and I also just recently launched my company with my business partner, Ryan Kelly, Geeks Like Us, where we're trying to build a geek community that's focused on research and just helping geeks connect with one another and change the world in an awesome way.
What else did you start up, Megan, that several of us are involved in?
And I am also the Dungeon Master for Clinical Role. It's a monthly D&D stream where most of the panelists here are players. So get to do that once a month, which is awesome.
My name is Adam Davis. I actually have a master's degree in education with a specialization in drama therapy. For the last 6 years, I've been running Dungeons & Dragons groups specifically to help teenagers build social skills. If you're looking up there at the Game to Grow Twitter, it's actually Game to Grow without the number 2. It's TO. If you're following us on Twitter, just don't follow that one. That's not me.
Sorry.
That's all right. Blame your wife.
Yeah. No! Have you met her?
Blame Microsoft.
Yeah, there we go.
Yes, that's the way to go.
But not too much. They feed me.
My name is Adam Johns. I have a master's degree in couple and family therapy. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist in the Seattle area, specializing in seeing geeks and gamers in therapy. Adam and I are the executive directors of Game to Grow, which is a pretty darn brand new nonprofit that uses games of all kinds for therapeutic growth, educational growth, and community development purposes. So we're very, very happy to be a part of Game to Grow, and we've taken all the experience, the 6 years of experience that both of us have in running tabletop games with Dungeons & Dragons for therapeutic growth, and are working to expand that in a lot of other directions.
My name is Abra E. Kuniak. I'm the wife of Steve here. And we recently relocated from the Pittsburgh area to outside of Harrisburg. And I'm working in Harrisburg at a practice called New Passages in outpatient therapy, but I've kind of been all over from wraparound and behavioral-based and home plan to family-based programs. And then I was a school counselor at an intense out-of-school placement type of school. and then here. So I'm happy to be here and currently working in the field.
So I'm Dr. Steve Kuniak, and I'm the husband of Abby. So she kind of vicariously got this stuff from me, married into it.
I think she's the most normie one here.
Yeah. She's an X-Files junkie.
Go you.
So there's that. So, any X-Files fans? There you go.
January 3rd.
Yes. So I guess my claim, so I've done the clinical stuff. I've been a clinician for almost a decade now in different roles. I started off, family-based, in-home, intensive stuff and all that. I guess I kind of got my direction, though. My claim to fame was I earned my doctoral degree by studying gamers. So my doctoral dissertation is actually based on research that I gathered at PAX East 2013. So I used PAX as my lab. And so I've come back a couple times to do the same thing. I'm currently working on another set of studies from data I gathered in 2015. It's slow going pushing the research out because, again, there's a number of you guys who are therapists. You understand that sometimes we have to cobble together a career out of multiple different things to keep us going. And so it's kind of like after that 12-hour shift, it's kind of hard to go through 600 data samples. But I'm working on that. So my organization now, I got a job as a full-time professor, so that's why I'm focusing back on the research now. But my organization is called Experience Points. It's kind of an entity that exists to talk about gaming from the gaming is good perspective. So if I like to always kind of look at it as if take this as bringing mental health into the gaming industry and helping out here. My goal was to bring gaming out into the real world and talk about how it's useful and to back that with research, because we always get kind of slammed, I think. Our field kind of has a negative history of saying some bad stuff about us folks, and I've been gaming since I could hold a controller, since I could throw a dice, and I think I turned out okay. So I'd like to try to prove that, but in order to do that, I think you need to publish. So that's what I do, and so if folks are interested in that, starting off.
Yeah, he's definitely our researcher up here. And I guess I'll say a little bit about what I do aside from Take This, because Steve mentioned cobbling things together. So I have a part-time practice in the Seattle area where I see a lot of folks who are high functioning on the autism spectrum, primarily older teens and young adults. It's kind of interesting that the trajectory of my career, I've become kind of a liaison for gaming culture, to talk to clinicians, to educators, and they look at me funny like there's a culture. I'm like, there's not just one, baby. All right? Let me explain, all right? And I like to talk a lot about the phenomenology of different video game experiences, because to a lot of clinicians, a video game is a video game is a video game, and same thing with parents. They don't understand that somebody who plays only MOBAs is going to have a different experience than someone who does nothing but single-player Minecraft. Yeah, I see a lot of yup. Yeah, teachers don't know this. So that's a lot of what I do, but I'm also a therapeutic DM, incidentally, for the organization that Adam and Adam used to work for, and before they launched their own thing and started kicking butt on their own, and just being awesome. So yeah, I do a lot of weird things in the Seattle area, and yeah, so that's what I do. But let's talk about some of the other stuff we do. We were talking about stigma. And what's the best reaction you've all had when you tell people what you do? Let me give you an example, because the best reaction for me just happened the other night. If Adam and Adam know which place I'm talking about in the Seattle area, it's called Mox Boarding House. It's a gaming cafe / pub, and it's amazing. And I was there, and I was ordering a beer, and the bartender saw my phrenology tattoo, asked what I do. I told him, oh, I'm a shrink. And he just got wide-eyed, stared at me way uncomfortably long, and I'm like, what? And he's like, man, I saw Get Out. And it just stopped right there. I'm like, dude, I don't have like a teacup or anything. And he was like, nah, man, I don't trust you. I was like, hypnosis stuff, can I have my beer? But what's like the best reaction you guys have had?
One happened on our way here in an Uber today, actually. Yeah, our Uber driver was like, what's going on at the convention center? And, we told him about PAX and everything. And then when we told him why we are here specifically, he goes, oh my God, that's awesome. I love that. Oh my God. And then we talked about Dragon Ball Z for the rest of our drive.
We've had, Best is kind of a weird,
Yeah.
that's like a weird place. We've had the opposite reaction too, where we've told people about it, and then they say, oh, like that devil worship stuff. We were actually at a homeschool con, and we were spending a lot of time with a teenager who had found our booth and was really interested. We have all these cool dice and dragons and stuff at our booth, and they were coming over and talking to us the whole time, and they were like, I don't think my mom would ever let me do this. And we said, well, bring her over. We'd be happy to talk with her at this homeschool con. And she came over, and that was basically her reaction. I don't know, this devil worship stuff. And then she said, that's just the best, absolute best line. She said, I don't know you from Adam.
And we were both wearing name tags.
We were both wearing name tags that said Adam. So she wasn't sold.
Didn't win her over.
I think my favorite is when they find out, and it never fails, when they find out that my husband's also in the field, they're like, what's that like? That has to be like, whoa. I get it all the time.
I'm trying to think. One of my reactions that I got was I was presenting for an institute in Pittsburgh called Western Psychiatric Institute. I was doing an ethics lecture, and I would try to incorporate the whole gaming thing in, because my thing was always, whether you realize it or not, your clients are gamers, And so I was talking to these folks, and I mentioned this when we were preparing for this. So a professional, someone who does this stuff, was sitting in the front row, and I used to bring my Xbox in, and I would play during the lecture, just because I found out that so many clinicians have no idea what, like, they think of gaming kind of like as an objective thing, like it's its own ethereal sort of thing, but they've never actually held a controller. They have no idea what it looks like. So I put Minecraft on, and this woman was she was squinting, and she was looking at the screen, and she was trying to figure out what's going on, and so I noticed, and I said, is there something wrong? And she said, his gun looks weird. And I kind of looked back, and I said, there's no guns in Minecraft. And she went pale, because in her mind, all gaming of any type involved weapons. It was his hand. Like I was punching the dirt. That was his weird
Steve's hand.
That was his weird gun. Was his hand. She literally got up and walked out of the room. Like she was so taken by that gaming is not all guns.
So okay, so obviously we're all gamers, or X-Files fans, or X-Files? Was that the proper terminology?
X-File?
The NX-File?
An ex-Philly.
X-Philly,
Philly.
okay. You really want to say that here? So how do you end up incorporating your geeky hobbies or interests in your practices directly? I mean, obviously some of us use games directly, but in what subtle ways?
I think for me, I like having people build characters, especially my clients who are trying to reinvent themselves. I work a lot with teenagers, and one of the things with teenagers is sometimes they feel pressure to conform to a certain identity that's not comfortable for them. And so I like to just sort of theoretically introduce the concept of Dungeons & Dragons, say, oh, well, there's these magic classes and there's these fighting classes. Which one do you feel more like? And helping them kind of start to build through a character, because they'll be a little bit more true to who they want to be. And so that can be a lot of fun for them, just to kind of verbally go through what it would be like to character generate and make that character.
So the question was, how do we incorporate our geeky interests? That's pretty much all I do. So it's less of an incorporation as much as it is like, how do I incorporate non-geeky things into what I do? So in addition to the work that I do with Game to Grow, I have also been helping, since we're talking about video games, doing some video game therapy-based groups too, using dialectical behavioral therapy in video games groups.
How do you use DBT with video games?
Explain that one.
So we'll like teach skills and then have them practice it. Like, have you ever played Overcooked? Anybody?
Yeah.
So we use Overcooked to teach how to ask for what you want, the Dear Man skills.
Are you freaking, that's
So,
awesome.
Overcooked's a cooperative, for those of you who haven't played Overcooked, Overcooked is a cooperative game where it's sort of hectic and crazy and you're running around and you have to communicate with each other in order to really be effective at the game.
Thanks, Adam.
That's so cool.
So there's a lot of power there because we do actually run those groups in schools. Then there's a lot of talking to teachers and talking to parents about that and having them understand the power of games. We just ran a group for dads, actually, for dads to learn how to play video games with their kids. And because it's a nonprofit that I'm working on this project with, we gave that family a Switch. So every family that came in and went to every session, that they learned about parental controls, they learned about some of the extremes of screen time that can have some challenges for the family, and then they learned how to play the Switch together. They learned how to play this cooperative game, and the dad was playing with their kid, and we're teaching them how to communicate and what it means to be both good at and bad at demanding what you want in that game. And so it was a neat opportunity to talk to and sort of normalize the geeky stuff, because a lot of these parents have been really problematizing their kids' love of games. And so being there and being like a professional, and my job is to play games with kids. And I can talk to them about why it's not bad for you, but why it's actually good for you to be playing these games.
Oh, you mean there's benefits to video games?
Yes.
Shocked.
I mean, I guess like on those same lines, a lot of the, Adam and I get to play Dungeons and Dragons 5 days a week, or 5 times a week, 5 different groups a week. And through that experience, we get a lot of opportunity to see actually a lot of what Megan's talking about, this idea of your character, how your character relates to who you are, and how you can understand yourself through your character. And we design a lot of very specific interventions, very specific ways that we're working on building skills. But the really amazing moments are the moments when somebody understands that my character gets really, really upset whenever anybody tries to mess with his stuff. And then I get to reflect on, I watch somebody reflect on, oh, I get really upset with that. That's something my character has, and that's something that I have. Or the opposite, where I get to say, my character is great, he has a strong personality, he's amazing at talking to people, and that's not something that I have, but I get this chance to have that in the moments where I'm playing that character. And those are always just incredible to see. They're incredible moments to get to watch and get to help create within that. I forgot what the question was, actually.
You know what? This is going to end up being kind of free form anyway, because, yeah, I mean, it's all the stuff that everybody here does is amazing and important, and we could talk about pretty much anything. But that said, the question was, basically, how do you incorporate subtly or not so subtly your geeky hobbies, interests, whatever, into, yeah, there we go, moment of recognition.
That's right.
You still answered the question.
That sounds good.
I would say, not necessarily my specific interest, but, encompassing the interest from the geeky realm. Originally, I didn't realize the whole definition of gamer thing until I met my husband. And, part of his dissertation was really defining that culture and identifying it and, and asking people what they label themselves as. And everybody likes games. Who doesn't play Uno or cards or, the basic things? And those are the things that I really have brought in over the years from day one. Working with kids, I don't know about you, but they're like all over the place and like all squirmy, and you can get them to focus and connect, and then they're like, oh, you're not so bad, and they start talking to you. And then when it comes to adults, if they identify that, when they find out that, I am open to that, they light up. And then they're like, oh, okay, you get me. And then they just start talking about it. It's like this whole other realm of this person just opened up. And sometimes they bring stuff to session, or they just like to talk about it, knowing that it's a safe place to do that. But for me, that's my best answer.
So for me, my I would do it subtly. You said subtly or overtly.
Yeah.
So subtly, it would start with, my office is decorated with geeky things. So like I've got my diplomas on the wall, but then I've also got Minecraft figures sitting out, and I'm a big Halo nut, so I have my Master Chief sitting by my chair, et cetera. And so like folks will come in and they'll see that stuff, and if it's relevant to them, then that automatically opens the door. So like it's almost like shared language without speaking. So like already I've jumped into joining as opposed to getting to know each other. Like they know I'm safe. So that was always helpful. But I've done everything from like in the assessment process using different game sort of models and things like that to assess what's going on with someone, to talk about them. Use of metaphors is big, so like it's easier for someone to talk about this game that they're playing or this particular character that they're playing with, and what's going on in that world than to talk about what's going on with them, so we use it as a bridge through metaphor. But then I've also, one of my favorite things that I ever did in my history was I had a client who I could not connect with. He just would not meet me anywhere, so I wouldn't talk. So I brought in my Xbox and started playing Halo, and it was in home, so in his home, then he would talk, because now we're playing Halo. So we actually did Forge. We did sandbox therapy through Forge in Halo. And what was cool about that was he got to keep then that world with him, because we did it on his Xbox. So about a year or so later, his mom ran into me at one of my agency's functions and said, he still goes into that occasionally, like he goes back. And I don't know what that is, but and we never really got to take a look at it, but it seems relevant to me that that was important enough to him to go back into the world that we created together and do something with that. So that was one of I think the most clever things that I just landed on, because he wouldn't talk to me otherwise. So.
Seeing it's funny, Steve, the way I'm going to kind of catapult off what you, because, my office is super geeky, super geeky. I hid a TARDIS somewhere in my office. I love watching people try and find it. But I've also got an entire case of, I played Warhammer 40K for like 20 years, and there's even a fully painted Titan in my office. For those of you who understand how much time that took. But there's that. But I actually love talking to parents. I love using theoretical orientations to justify their kids' hobbies. And that's actually what I end up doing with Dungeons and Dragons a lot of the time. Dungeons and Dragons is such a perfect behavioral model that all I have to do is go and talk to other clinicians. I'm like, CBT's built right into this, okay? You've got reinforcements already built into the game. And being able to talk to parents and basically make it okay for their kids to enjoy what they enjoy, because it's no longer evil. It's no longer this abstract concept, and it's something that even, I love it when I can get some of the parents to play D&D with their kids. It's awesome. I've got a few interventions where I make them go out and do things together. It's awesome. It's really cool. I really want to hear more about this Overcooked thing. That's really fun. So let's see, what else? How did you guys discover that you could do this? I mean, none of us were taught this in school, all right? None of us taught any of this. Really?
Drama therapy.
I'm
Oh,
trained
that's
as a drama
right.
therapist, so,
Damn hippies.
How did you
How'd you guys do this?
And actually, my launch into this was hearing you on the Dragon Talk podcast.
Oh, that's right.
So I heard your interview on that and went, yeah, of course D&D's therapeutic, because I've been playing it for quite a while at that point. It was like, yeah, okay, I'm going to do this too. I think I can do this, and got the support at Southeast Psych to start a couple groups and got it launched. So
That was the first time you figured this stuff out?
I knew it was therapeutic for me, but I couldn't figure out how to bring it as a group to other people.
I'm inspirational.
You are.
I'm going to tell my wife.
We started, as I mentioned earlier, about 6 years ago, and we sort of just fell into it. I started playing Dungeons & Dragons when I was probably 8 or 9 years old at Boy Scout camp, and I went through my own experience playing Dungeons & Dragons. Was really good for me. I was kind of an overweight kid with long, greasy hair who didn't have a very strong social network, except for the people that I played D&D with, and I got to be a character. I got to be a really charming rogue. And it allowed me to see myself as someone who I wanted to be. And I really got to experience the confidence-building effects of Dungeons & Dragons at an early age. And so later on, when I became a facilitator of a Dungeons & Dragons group, I wanted to do that same thing for kids so they could see themselves as their character and take little pieces from their character's strengths back into their real lives, and then also use their characters as sort of a proxy by which they could learn skills. So my background is in drama therapy, like I said earlier, and it was a really easy transition from using systematic and intentional drama games to systematic and intentional Dungeons & Dragons, because a lot of it's sit-down improv, basically. So I could really help use the game in a very specific way to help them build their confidence, the same way I would use like a drama game or activity to help them like build their public speaking skills and things like that. So it's a pretty easy translation from drama therapy to Dungeons and Dragons.
And I actually want to promote something they do or have done in the past. Adam and Adam have done numerous panels at numerous PAX events, and there's a video for one of them called "Don't Punch the GM," and they tell some of the best stories. And I will not lie, I have stolen some of their intervention techniques. Apparently my battery is running low.
I'm inspirational?
Yeah, you're inspirational.
I'm gonna tell my fiance.
Inspirational XP given.
Well, I actually got pulled in by Adam. So he was running, we were in grad school, and Adam was, I did a multicultural project where I had to say what cultures I belonged to. And one of the cultures, I did like a little D20, and I'd like stuckied it to my body. It was a arts therapy class. And Adam found me afterwards, and he said, I needed a facilitator for my Dungeons & Dragons group. Will you come get paid to play Dungeons & Dragons? And I said, yes, yeah, 100%. I would totally do that. And so we started running those groups, and we were running the improv group and the Dungeons & Dragons group back to back, and I was learning all these amazing techniques that Adam was bringing in from all the drama therapy background. And then I was also in grad school learning all these super cool marriage and family therapy, systemic, high concept ideas, and I said I could do these same things, and so we started really doing them together. And it basically set me on a whole trend, not just for Game to Grow and all the Wheelhouse Workshop stuff and all the work that we have done with Dungeons and Dragons and role-playing games, but also for my private practice, and being able to really understand how geek culture impacts us, how being a geek or being a gamer is not just an aspect of my interest, it's an aspect of my culture. Actually, PAX is maybe an amazing example of that idea, which is geeks and gamers, and we all come from different areas and different interests and different ideas, but we all come together for something like this. PAX, this is incredible. You guys are at PAX. Here you are.
You guys are at the inaugural PAX event for PAXUnplugged, by the way. Yeah.
That's amazing. And I just have learned the power of this culture and the power that brings into a therapeutic practice, to an educational practice.
That's actually why I picked this for my dissertation, was the idea that everybody is coming out and coming together for it. So where am I gonna, because I had to get a huge sample for my study metric that I was using at the time. My professor said, you're gonna need to get like 200 people. Where are you gonna get that? There are no cons in Pittsburgh that draw in that kind of a crowd that I could randomly sample that many people. One of my professors said, you have to think big. What's the biggest convention that you know of that you can get to that gamers go to? So, yeah, sorry.
No, that was perfect.
Yeah.
That was a great transition.
Yeah, yeah.
For me, I'd say I was shown to me. I started in a field, and I was in graduate school, so I was working in a bachelor's level, which it's a TSS, it's a therapeutic support staff, and, therapeutic staff support, other way around, sorry.
I was really confused.
But you work with the parents to help teach parenting and behavioral modification to help with their child. So the only way, and you're doing this in their home, and the only way to make these things happen is to try to create scenarios to bring out behaviors and things to correct. And like one of the best things to do is the game of sorry, because the kids get frustrated left and right. And there's actually, I've had the hardest time finding it, but a friend of mine back from undergrad that went to the same grad school that I went to found like a PDF of like replacement cards to make it more therapeutic. But I think just the game on itself can help to, bring about some things and create some talking points. So just really using those either to put someone at ease and not focus so much on what they're there for, or to try to work with certain individuals to bring out things and work on them.
And one of the things I'm actually going to throw out there is basically, since I took over the role of clinical director at Take This, and I started going to PAX events pretty religiously, it's amazing how many people like us there are out there, but it's all kind of piecemeal. And actually sitting at this table are some of the best connectors in the industry. I think almost everybody I have met through all of them, okay? Adam and Adam do a great job of doing all their panels and connecting people. Megan is just making her rounds within the geeky therapeutic circles. So is Steve, I mean, and Abby is now too. It's really amazing, and we're all starting to come together a little bit. But another question I had for everybody, and this is especially for those of you who may not work with teenagers, one of the things a lot of us are taught, especially those from a more clinical background, is you don't talk about yourself at all. Okay, you don't reveal anything about yourself. If you do, document that. Whatever. Guess which side I fall on for that one. How much do you talk about yourself, your interests, for whatever reason, just basically having a conversation with your clients? I'm going to skip Adam Davis, freaking hippies. No, I'm not.
He acts it out.
Yeah. Interpreted, yeah.
But no, how much do you guys talk about your interests and what you do?
For me, like, as soon as they walk in my office is geek mecca. I have so many little vinyl pop figs everywhere. Like, every fandom I am a part of, I represent in my office. So, like, as soon as you step into my office, you know a lot about me. So I can't really hide it. I do share personal stories and things. I go from the camp of, if the thing I'm sharing will benefit my client, I'll share. So that's the take I did go on it.
Yeah, a lot of the, I feel like that idea for therapists is definitely like really strongly settled on the concept that sharing things about yourself isn't serving your client, it's serving yourself. And that's a dangerous road you walk as a therapist, because the reality is you are trying to connect with your client. The studies really show that it's about the relationship. It's about the relationship you have with your client. And ultimately, if my clients don't know that I'm a geek too, if they don't know that my interests, that I can understand them, then they're much less likely to open up about it. I have many teenagers who come into my practice who I say, what do you do in your spare time? And they say, I don't know, play games. And I go, what games? And they go, like, first-person shooters. And I'll say, what first-person shooters? Like Call of Duty? Do you play Overwatch? Are you like a fan of the team dynamics? And being able to get them to that point really changes the dynamic. All of a sudden, they know that I'm there with them. I can talk the language with them, and I can provide an insight into their lives and an understanding into what's going on in their lives. And it does require some level of me sharing. And sometimes that's you do end up having to draw a hard line. Like I've had clients ask for my battle tag on Overwatch. This is like a big no on the therapist side of dual relationships and stuff like that. And you have to be able to set those lines. But being able to share that these are parts of my life and I can speak the language, I can walk the walk right along with you, means a lot, builds a lot into the relationship.
I think one of my favorite questions, though, is when you have a client come in and when you're asking them that, what do you do for fun? And you get the lovely client who comes in and says, I play D&D, and then asking that immediate follow-up question, tell me about your character.
Yeah.
As soon as you do
Love
that,
that one.
you got the buy-in. It's awesome.
I like what edition? It's not 4th edition, is it?
What wasn't that bad?
So I really like what you said there, because it's so true, because it is that fine line. I had a professor who used to say, you don't want to share so much, you want to keep it somewhat magical, because there's power in that power differential to make change. But at the same time, it's so challenging, because if you want to get people to buy into talking about stuff with you, they have to know that you're human. And so like, I will share a lot, and it relates back to the last question. I was sitting here trying to think about what was my first time when I realized that I could use this stuff. I was actually in a really serious car accident right after I got out of college. I shattered my right leg entirely, like I'm all titanium. So I had just finished, it was one of those like perfect storm, it's not adamantium.
I was going to ask,
I wish.
how close on a scale of 1 to 10 are you to the $6 million man?
He is named Steve.
132nd. My uncle, when I was recuperating, I couldn't walk at all. It was it just, speaking of the relationship thing, my surgeon, I remember like, it was pulverized, just let that one sink. So like, I was out for 24 hours. My surgeon wakes me up, comes in, and he introduces himself, talk about bedside manner. He says, I repaired your leg, it's perfectly repaired. You'll do exactly what I say for the next 6 months, and if you deviate, I will take your leg. All right?
That man needs some motivational interviewing.
I got that. But so I share that a lot actually with people because I have historically gotten the folks who are either afraid to talk about gaming or geek stuff as being useful, and so they're very bashful. So I get into, well, it's very important for me, and this is why. Or I get the parents who I start talking about it, and they are just about ready to take their kid out the door and end therapy with me because here I am talking about the devil's handiwork as being something that I'm going to utilize with their child. And so I say, no, literally, like, after my leg was broken, I couldn't do anything. I couldn't walk. I needed people to move me around, stuff like that. Like, you take for granted how much you use your legs for, and all that, I think. So it was a very eye-opening moment. But it happened at a perfect time for me because I had just started grad school. I was 1 semester in. And so I had to take time off. But I couldn't do anything for 6 months. I couldn't move. So all I could do was read comic books and play Halo 2. And that occupied my mind enough, so much so that I was noticing that the painkillers were not helping me. Because, I don't know, shattered femur, it's a big bone. So that was not helping, but getting into the geeky stuff was. I wasn't feeling the pain in my leg as much if I could take my mind somewhere else. And so I got back into school just having had that experience and shared that with some of my professors, and thank God they were open to this idea. They said, that's something, we really need to look at this, because this could be useful. So it was my own personal experience that led me into, this was good for me, this helped me. It has to be able to help other people. I can't be unique in that.
And what does your uncle call you from your one game?
Which one? Oh yeah, it was Halo 2, comic books, and Rome Total War. And so I was from my chair in my recovery area of my grandmother's house, I was launching a brutal campaign against the Egyptians. And so my uncle, for whatever, I can't believe I'm sharing this in front of a room of like almost 300 people.
Nobody's looking.
Yeah, I know. My uncle, since, we don't know where he came up with this, but my uncle, since I was young, has given me the nickname Herman. I don't know. I do not know where it comes from or why. But he started referring to me, and still refers to me, as my wife is reminding me, as Harmonious. the tyrannical conqueror of Egypt. So, there you go.
Oh my God. So I've actually got a specific question for Abby, but one of the things that Adam John mentioned is about the relationship and the research around it. One of the things that we like to talk about at Take This a lot is that statistic, and it is for those of you who don't know this, it is the single greatest controllable factor in therapeutic outcome. The only greater factor are things that you really can't control, like, your parents' education level. I mean, maybe I could get my mom to go back to school, but why? She's doing okay. But the relationship accounts for roughly 30% of the change in any therapeutic context. It's actually double the change from the therapeutic techniques. They don't matter as much as the relationship does. And that's part of the reason I brought this question up, is that, not that I think therapists should be all willy-nilly and talk about themselves, because that is just a little narcissistic. Pay me to talk about me. That'd be really cool, actually.
I go to panels at cons that do that exact thing. I just want to hear people talk about
snap!
themselves.
I didn't realize. Oh my God!
That's what we're doing now.
But yeah, so. So Abby, I gotta ask, what's the journey been like? Basically marrying into geekdom.
I love it.
Everyone's listening.
Close.
No, I love it. He's. I've learned new things. Like, even being here today, there's games here that I never knew about that, I would like us to get more involved with. We found this place in Mechanicsburg called Game Table Cafe, and it's the one place in Central PA that doesn't serve watered down coffee. That's a plus. And you can actually, like, you pay $5 to go in, and you can learn how to play games. And I think it's something that we can do to meet new people out there. And I honestly probably would have never even thought about it if he didn't kind of show me that.
Oh, that's awesome.
Can I give, if you have like I love the trend of game stores that now have coffee or food or beer. That they're kind of doing, and then you can like check out games and play and eat all at the same time. That's awesome. Is there anybody here who runs one of those or works at one of those?
Yes!
Man, just
Both
like-
of you! Applaud them!
Thumbs up for you guys. It's a super amazing idea, and frankly, like an awesome way to get people in and playing games and relaxing and having a great space. So, awesome job.
So we got about 15 minutes left. I kind of want to throw it over to questions from the audience, unless anybody else has anything they really, really want to add. I know, you guys, that's awesome.
There is a wireless mic, I think.
Yeah, no, we do have a wireless mic. So, okay, I will ask. If you have a question, please line up roughly around the third row here, and I'm actually going to steal something from the one of the founders of Take This. A question is an inquisitive. It is not a story. All right? Everybody gets one. No, just wait one more. No, you get one. All right?
We're on social media. Folks
Now
want to
that-
find us afterwards, too.
Yeah, no, we,
Totally true.
actually, I would take, if you want to contact on the socials, I'd take a picture of this now because I think my Surface is about to crash on me. That's
Just
my
remember
fault,
it's-
that's not the update department's. I didn't charge it enough and forgot to plug it in because I'm forgetful. But yeah, so let's do this.
So I'm an indie RPG designer. How can we as designers, especially role-playing designers, make games that are better for therapy and for these treatments that you're, working with?
Contact any one of us. No, see, that's just the short version answer. I think Megan's probably got something a little bit more erudite.
Put more
Original.
social encounters. That's the biggest thing. NPCs that you can interact with interesting personalities who have their own thing going on that's outside of whatever the characters are doing. So just building in those types of social encounters, difficult personalities to work with, interesting people, just that kind of thing. It was wonderful.
I'll just add on to that like, if there's a way to make mechanics in the game, and there are some games that have this, that allow the social encounter aspect to be as interesting or engaging or something that your character can really learn how to do better. As much as I'm a big fan of Dungeons & Dragons, there's none of that, and it's, I roll a deception check or I roll a persuasion check, and it's not nearly as dynamic as the combat. So if the social encounter part can be as dynamic as combat, that's awesome. That really helps out a lot.
Yeah, and the only thing I would add, we were talking, do you want to?
Well, I was going to let you piggyback off this one, but I was just playing, has anybody heard of the Ungame?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And it's a cool game and all, but it just focuses on feelings. So when you then go in, and now you can go into like more deep conversations and things like that, but it's making, you're going to explain this better than I, because we were just talking about this. But it's too, like, you can't get to the place that you want to get to. So I think this, working through this fantasy that you're kind of talking about is in finding this happy medium where it's more natural.
Yeah, I'll be real quick because we've got a long line, but the only thing I would throw out in addition to everything, everyone say yes, and then also make it fun. Because if I can't get my clients to be willing to sit down and play it, like their therapy games and educational games notoriously are very difficult to get people into when they're made just for that specific purpose. That's why I almost always use something that I would play and then figure out how to reverse engineer it, so.
And also, think about what are called task demands. Basically, what does it tap into? One of the games I like to use with some of my kids with high-functioning autism is a game called We Didn't Play Test This at All.
Yes.
Well, for those of you who don't know about autism, I should say them, those of us on the spectrum tend to really like predictability and structure, and learning how to deal with frustration of unpredictable things is a great thing. So I consider one of the task demands of that game to be frustration tolerance and learning about flexibility and emotional control. So think about the task demands of your games. Is it sequencing? Is it frustration tolerance? Is it the resistance? Oh my God, the resistance is great. I love watching autistic kids try to lie. That sounds cruel, but it's a great skill because basically white lies are social grease, and a lot of my kids on the spectrum are way too honest. And so learning for them to basically read nonverbal cues of others and control their own body language is a brilliant thing to see. So think about the task demands. Also, as one of the first few people, you get one of the limited edition, Gabe-designed Penny Arcade Take This pins. That's one of our Psychomancers. Great question.
Hey there. So, quick thing, I actually saw you two both at PAX West a couple years ago for your Don't Touch the DM, and it was inspiring, so yes. Take that.
You are inspiring.
So,
I can take it home to my wife.
so I am currently a graduate student studying criminal justice, and my dissertation looks at mature coping in prisons. And essentially, one of the things I look at is games and promoting pro-social behaviors in male inmates. And one of the things that I'm hoping to do is bring D&D and other gaming into prisons. Specifically Washington DOC. I'm Washington State University, so hey.
Wait, because I trained at Monroe.
Currently I'm over at Airway Heights.
Oh, you're at Airway Heights.
Yeah.
Man, that's Gladiator College.
Yeah, so.
We actually had it at Monroe.
Do you guys, you don't anymore?
Well, maybe not anymore. I don't know who's there anymore, but yeah, we had guys on the unit who were playing D&D.
Yeah, because currently there's no D&D in Washington DOC, and I would like there to be, and my question was, how do I work my way into a system that historically corrections has been like D&D is horrible, devil worship, we hate this.
My suggestion would be to learn to speak their language. So, and it sounds like you already are. But one of the things that we discovered early on is if you go in with your excitement and your enthusiasm about Dungeons and Dragons, you're going to be talking right over their head, and they have no idea why they should do that. But we learned, like I said, I was a classroom teacher for a few years, and I learned to speak the language of teachers. And I can talk about the things that they need to hear. And once we were starting to incorporate the language of therapy, we can talk to therapists and say the words that they need to hear. So if you can cultivate your pitch to the things that they need to hear. Like you're creating an environment that's pro-social. You're creating an environment where they have to support each other. So don't talk about like how fun combat is and how fun it is to you get to kill things. Sometimes you can sneak up on people with improvised weapons. That part's one of my favorite parts about the game, but maybe not the pitch, right? So that'd be my main suggestion, and practice your pitch. Like in the mirror, give yourself the pitch, do it to your friends and family, and see if they can pick it apart.
I'll also point you, because it's a good place for it, to point you in the direction of rpgresearch.com.
God, yes.
It's run by a guy named Hawk Robinson, who is amazing, and he has been collecting research around how RPGs of all kinds can be used for therapeutic and educational benefits for 13 years or something like that, an insane amount of time. And he also he runs groups himself, and he does a lot of other amazing work. But he has a repository of an amazing amount of research, which may be a nice way for you to sort of say, here, all this research is really demonstrating how this can be really good for this.
There was also a thing recently on Vice where they did a thing about Dungeons and Dragons in the prison system. And if you've seen that?
Yes.
Yeah,
It's a great
so
piece.
Then you see former inmates talking about their experience and how good it was for them. And the stories, that's another thing we picked up on along the way of trying to run a business on this, is telling stories is what motivates people to understand the power and impact of the work.
And I would, if, I'm thinking about my own experiences training at Monroe for 2.5 years, and I would probably emphasize, like Adam said, speaking bureaucrats' language, because you're speaking government. Which is slow and has a low comprehensive level. Sorry to any government employees, you know it's true. But I would emphasize after an initial cost, it is a low maintenance, like really low maintenance cost. You just have to print paper. and that there's a lot of potential for social behavioral practice with behavioral reinforcements built into the system already. I'd speak as much clinician and as much bureaucrat as you can. All right. Oh, no, you get one too. I have a couple of these.
Also, come get a card and then email me.
Oh, yeah, here, we'll just put this.
And while she's grabbing that, I'll just make a comment. I saw a great story about the introduction of a therapy dog into the prison system and how it's saving the prison money.
I have good research on that.
Yeah, we actually did that at TRU.
Money really talks. It helps. And on the topic of money, so you guys have been championing a lot of the positive psychological effects of games and gaming and things like that. But I would love to get your comment while you were all here assembled about loot boxes and the kind of Skinner box mentality that's hitting
It's very topical.
games out there. I know, very
Wherever
topical.
did you think of this?
Taking Reddit by storm.
Actually, so I will just,
Yeah.
as a really quick answer to this, because it's really, really comprehensive and also
Yeah.
really easy to read. There's a wonderful, wonderful book called Getting Gamers by Jamie Madigan. It is one of the few really well-researched books out there on the topic that's also fun to read. There's a chapter on why people cheat, and there's one particular line that's like, well, cheaters breed. Not literally, but I'm sure some of them hook up. But it's just a really well-researched book, and I believe there's an entire chapter on basically reinforcement schedules and keeping people playing, that sort of thing, that I think will touch on that topic really nicely.
What's the name of the book?
Getting Gamers.
Getting Gamers.
Yeah, and actually Jamie Madigan runs a great podcast called The Psychology of Video Games.
Have you guys ever had to actually advise one of your clients to scale back
On gaming?
on gaming?
God, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
God, yeah.
Exploiting anything in there.
Well, God,
So-
that's a whole different can of
Yeah.
worms. And
I like to say to people, it's just like exercise. Anything good can also be, I
You
mean,
can
like,
do too
everything
much,
has to have balance.
so
So maybe this is kind of similar to what you were kind of pointing to at the end there, but like screen time and like FaceTime. And it sounds like you guys research or work with clients that are either younger folks or like geeks, right? And they have like a specific relationship to screens. So like I think of like the G33ks article that just came out like 2 months ago about like the early stuff that's starting to bear out in research about young people and screen time. So I'm wondering if maybe what your hopes are and fears in relation to like what an increase of screen time that's substituting for like face-to-face instead of being an addition to face-to-face, and or like maybe like opportunities for interventions that are therapeutic and like helpful with screens that we didn't have before.
oh, this is one I talk about with parents
Dr.
all the
B,
time.
Like you're gonna
do you want to
burst.
do this?
There are benefits to online socializing. They're not necessarily the same as face-to-face. Again, I think it's the Jamie Madigan book, or it's there's another book called The Video Game Debate, which is another really good one to read. They talk about social capital, bonding capital face-to-face versus connectivity capital in terms of online communication. That online forums and video games are high in terms of connectivity but low in bonding. So it's not that one is better than the other, it's just that they're different and they both need to be recognized for what they are. So so when I talk to parents, I just talk about it in those terms. Football is not basketball. You don't expect them to be the same. And wrestling is not swimming. And cooking is not wrestling. They all have, those of you who have been line cooks, maybe you say otherwise, but that's basically it. So you can't compare, it's apples and oranges. And to consider them synonymous is, I think, an error.
I'll also just add that it's a lot about the idea of why or what you're getting out of the experience. And it is possible to do something and feel like you're getting something out of it, but not be achieving what it is that you're trying to get to. This comes up a lot when we're talking about people who are watching a lot of streams of personalities or YouTuber personalities and things like that. Part of what you're getting is a social connection, but it's one way. So you're not getting that second piece of that other social connection.
I would disagree a little bit with streaming that being totally one way.
Oh yeah,
you can't
I
interact
think
with
it depends
Yeah.
on the stream.
chat
I
and stuff.
totally agree with that.
Yeah. Well, and also too, though, like screen time and getting to play through the internet, it's how we play. It's how we all built a relationship together.
That's true, that's true.
You know, like, we don't have time to always sit down at a table and, you know, I can't fly out to Seattle to see you guys once a month. That just isn't
Totally
prudent. But we can get together on the computer and play. So
Right.
it does allow for connection as well.
So, and I think this is probably going to be the last question. No, you get it, the last question. But we're going to be hanging out afterwards. If you want to find me, I'm next door all weekend, so I'm easy to track down.
Good evening. First off, thank you for all that you do for the game community and for pretty much everybody in general. The question I have is, so I DM a game weekly, and one of my players is going through depression. She's taking medication for it. She's seeing a professional for it. But sometimes in the game, she can either be disengaged to the point where it's hard for her to follow what's going on, but sometimes so engaged that if her character like gets knocked out, like she needs to leave the room to go cry. What can I do as a DM to help somebody who's going through this? That I don't know. What I need to do in like my game to like maybe help this person, because it's kind of a roadblock that I'm hitting right now.
Talk to her.
Just talk.
Talk. That is the biggest thing that we don't do as DMs with our players. If we notice they're having a hard time, talk to them. Ask her what you can do to support her, how you can help her best. You know, if she's having a rough night and you know that game's going to be pretty dark and might not be the best thing for her, maybe be willing to readjust a little bit, but talk to her. You know, you should not be a mind reader. You're not a mind reader. You're also not a clinician for her. But, you know, just to check in with her and see how she's doing.
And you know, to ask how you can support, if she is capable of giving you that and letting you know, yeah, I really need something uplifting today, or I really need something, I really need a combat today just because I need to have something that's a little more mechanical or crunchy. Like those can be nice guiding pieces for you to be able to help be a supportive friend with that.
Another thing that I would throw in is if there's challenging things happening in the game, let those fall on her character. So instead of saying, you just got hit and you're unconscious now, you could say stuff like, oh, your character just took a blow, has less than 0 hit points now, but on your next turn, you can roll some dice for that saving throw. So then she's always the player at the table, and the character is always the person in the game, and that she's never the person who is failing.
So also be engaged in her experience as well as just
and
Just communicate with her.
name the difference. So you can
Yeah.
refer to her character as her character and refer to her as her. We as game masters have a lot of power in the way that we say you or we say your character. There's a whole lot of power there in how much we want our players to internalize what their character is experiencing. So if you say you, like, wow, you did an amazing job at that, and your character is the one that hit the bad guy or whatever, then you might internalize some of that strength. And
Right.
if your character is experiencing something that is a failure or a fumble, or you're not very good at this thing, and I say your character really struggled with that, charisma check, but it's your character, and so you have the power there if she's having a rough day, to let all of her struggles fall on her character and all of her strengths fall on her.
That's awesome, dude. I'm totally stealing that. All right, so, no, you get a pin. You get the last pin. So thank you, everybody. That's time for us. Like I said, we'll hang out if you want to ask us anything. You have the Twitters. Get in touch.
I want
We love
to
chatting
say
about
one
this.
more thing.
Oh, my God.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
I want to see some raised hands if you are someone who is a clinician or an educator in some way that uses role-playing games or games of any kind in your practice. So that's awesome. I want to talk to all of you, so come talk. And I know Jack Birkenstock right there. I wanted to give a shout out because Jack Birkenstock runs groups here in Pennsylvania. So if you're a local or semi-local, talk to him.
Woo! Thanks, everybody. Enjoy PAX Unplugged.